So after being laid off at the beginning of this year, I went back to the last 6 months of spending on my budgeting app, and I noticed a pattern. A lot of this spending wasn't actually need-based. It was habit due to social pressure or due to an emotional coping mechanism. Things that were not actually helping my life, but actually hurting my life and my wallet. As I don't know when I'm going to get another job, I resolved today to change these spending habits so that way I can save more of my money and devote it to things I actually care about. By the end of this video, you will have 6 potential changes that you can make in your life and hopefully help you save money and actually spend it on the things that you really value in life. So the first thing that I decided to stop spending money on is alcohol at restaurants. Now, I know we all understand that alcohol at restaurants is expensive. I live here in New York City, where the average glass of wine can start around $20, but upwards of $30 depending on some restaurants. That is insane. I noticed that whenever I would go out and eat with my friends and they would order alcohol, I would feel this subtle pressure myself to also order alcohol when I was not very excited to actually be drinking it. This subtle social pressure of not wanting to be the odd one out amongst my friends caused me to spend a lot more money that I actually didn't really want to spend because, to be honest, I don't really even like drinking alcohol. I would never feel good after it, either immediately after it or the next day if I happen to have a hangover. This was actually an easy change to make for me. Whenever my friends would go out and order alcohol at a restaurant where I am present, I would order a Coke Zero instead. Now, it would still cost sometimes upwards of $5 for that Coke Zero, which is crazy. But the nice thing is that it's better than spending $20 or $30 on a glass of wine, because at least I'll enjoy the Coke Zero a little bit more, and my liver and my wallet will definitely thank me. So try this the next time that you're out drinking with your friends. Consider ordering something non-alcoholic that is cheaper and also better for your health. The second thing I decided to stop doing starting now is I will no longer make impulse purchases when shopping online. To be honest, I don't buy very much stuff in general. My friends would always comment on just how barren my closets were and just how little stuff that I have. Everything in my apartment feels that it has a specific reason behind it. And so I never really had a lot of clutter or ended up with a lot of overspending on a lot of different items. But I did notice that when I went and looked back at my last 6 months of Amazon purchases, a lot of the purchases that I made were actually not need-based, but were instead because I liked the idea of buying something new, oftentimes at full price. A lot of these items, while technically useful, say for example, my Ninja Creamy Ice Cream Maker, I didn't actually need at the time that I purchased it. I bought it thinking that I would use it later, when in reality, I didn't use it nearly as much as I thought when I originally purchased it. So now, if I buy something on Amazon, it immediately goes to the wish list if I don't immediately need it right now. At the end of the month, I look at all the items on my wish list and I decide, do I actually want any of these items any longer? If no, I remove them. If yes, then I look into my budget and say, when do I want to purchase this? In this way, I help to prevent myself from buying things online on impulse, but then really still allow myself to take some time to think, do I really want this? And if the answer is yes, and it's within my budget, I can still get it. But I wanted to stop the impulse spending and hopefully make it so the things that I do spend money on are more intentional. This has saved me hundreds of dollars in the past couple of months. And honestly, it hasn't been that much of a change as I thought it would be. So how about you try it as well and see if this can make a difference in your impulse purchases online. The third thing that I've decided to no longer buy is clothing that I am unsure about. So just like with the online purchases I just talked about, I would often buy clothing that I thought I might need for a future situation without actually buying it when I would need it. I would oftentimes end up with items that I don't actually really think I'm going to use, even though I thought I would use it at the time that I would buy it. Perfect example would be different kinds of dress clothes. In my last job, I did not have to wear any kind of dress clothes to the office, but I always thought that it'd be useful to have this, even if I don't know if I'll need it tomorrow, for example. In New York, where there are a lot of sample sales, where there are items that are on upwards of 80% discount, you can potentially get really good deals. And so whenever I would shop with my friends and they would encourage me by saying, this is a really good brand, you should consider buying it when it's so cheap, I would end up buying it without actually knowing, am I gonna really wear this at some point? The way I solved this was I created a spreadsheet, which was an inventory of all the clothing that I had in my closet, categorized by type of items such as jeans, slacks, dress shirt, etc. And then for any potential item that I was considering purchasing, I would go and add it to this spreadsheet, categorize it appropriately, and then indicate, is this something that I need, something that I want, or something that I do not need? If it was categorized as a want or a do not need, I would again go back and look at this at the end of the month and decide, do I have the money in my budget to buy these items that aren't absolutely needed right now? This is not to say that you can't purchase clothing that you think you might wear someday or doesn't have a particular use case right now. The idea is to make sure that you are being intentional in the clothing pieces that you're buying and that you're not falling into this trap of just buying it because you think it's on sale or you think it's a good brand that you might not ever get access to. Give yourself time to think about it in a way that the purchases can still meet your budget goals as well as the other goals you have for spending in your life. The fourth thing that I decided to stop spending money on is new skincare products just to try them out. So I've had the same skincare routine for the past 5 years, which helps to keep my skin clean, help prevent and treat acne, and also make sure that it's anti-aging by using sunscreen. Yet every year, it feels like some new ingredient or active shows up on the market and is marketed as the next big thing to fix your skin problems. And it doesn't help that I have a friend who works in skincare who is always trying to tell me why there's a new product release at this company, why I might want to consider trying it. And while a lot of this seems really interesting, ultimately I have to ask myself, why am I doing this? Do I really need this new product? Or am I just doing this as a way to feel like I'm constantly up to date on the latest and greatest in skincare? So I realized that in this case where I'd buy these new products, I actually had two costs to my life. Both the monetary cost to my wallet of buying a new product that I didn't need, but also the mental cost of trying to fix something that honestly isn't broken. So instead, I resolve myself to once a year at the beginning of the year, if there is something that I want to change out, I will go and try a new product or two. But my goal is to just not have to constantly think about improving what already works, and instead give myself the flexibility and the time to see if something is working or not working for my skin. The fifth thing that I've given up is food delivery to treat myself. So in my last job, which was very stressful, oftentimes I would come home at the end of the day mentally burned out and resolve to just sit on the couch and order takeout because I deserved it after a hard day at work. And I would oftentimes order my favorite meal as a treat to myself. And because I'm half Chinese, my favorite food that I would order would oftentimes be fatty pork over rice. And if you're Chinese, you know what I'm talking about. But the delivery apps like Uber Eats or DoorDash not only can mark up the food on their platform by upwards of 30%, you also have to pay a benefits fee, a service fee, a delivery fee, and this just is crazy. It adds up to a lot of money. But the bigger issue than the amount of money that I was spending on this, though the money is important, was the fact that this became a normal part of my routine. This ended up being bad for my health because all this really good food that I liked eating that wasn't really that healthy for me, but also bad for my wallet. So the new system that I implemented to help solve this was I would no longer order delivery on a daily basis, especially when I was not feeling bad. But more importantly, I would go and put some of my treat foods in my house that I could go to instead of ordering delivery, but that were also somewhat hard to eat. For example, one of the things I really enjoy is dark chocolate, especially the 80 to 100% cacao. And now I know what you're saying. That's like so bitter. How could you possibly overeat it? And that's the point. I still get the chocolate flavor that I enjoy, but because the treat is so bitter, it makes it harder to overeat. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do something as crazy as this, eating extremely bitter chocolate instead of eating something that you actually enjoy to treat yourself. But think about the kind of treats that you would keep in your house instead. So for example, instead of having, let's say, a big bag of chips that you keep at home to treat yourself instead of delivery, maybe consider buying smaller individual packages, like snack size packages of chips. That way you can still indulge yourself in the cases where you feel you need a treat without having to spend a lot of money on it or potentially overeating. So the sixth and final thing that I decided to not spend my money on anymore are news subscription services. Now, I know you're thinking, this is kind of a little bit weird. Like, why would I choose news subscription services? But hear me out. So what I stopped doing was paying for subscriptions to any newspapers or online news services, for example, the New York Times. This was not really about cost. I mean, at least for the New York Times, the subscription can be as cheap as $1 a week, which is pretty affordable. And this was not because I don't see the value of journalism and that I don't want to pay for it, but instead was because I noticed something subtle whenever I would look at the headlines. Every time that I would open my newspaper or look at this online app about what is going on in the world, I noticed that whatever happened with those headlines, if they were really great or if they were really terrible, could affect my mood for the rest of the day. For example, if I opened the particular New York Times app at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I happened to see that there was some really terrible inflation report and how everything was going to get even more expensive, that could subtly mean that the rest of my day, I'm kind of a little bit more nervous, I'm a little more frustrated, might just be a little bit more on edge, which over time actually affects you a lot more than you think. And in these 6 months since I've been laid off, I've been a lot more aware of how I manage my emotional energy and what I decide to give that emotional energy to. So what I decide to do instead is to cancel all of my news subscriptions, all my online news subscriptions, etc., and instead only look at the news, let's say on the New York Times front page, the BBC, on the front page of Reddit at the end of the day, not at the beginning, at the end of the day. So that way I could still keep up to date at a high level of what is going on in the world, but that whatever headline that I would see would not have the ability to affect my day negatively if I looked at it at the beginning of the day versus at the end of the day. And if you happen to cancel some of these apps, hey, you might save at least a little bit of money or a lot of money if you're subscribed to multiple of these apps. So definitely that can be a plus, but I think the best benefit is really for your mental health. So those are the 6 things that I decide to not spend money on going forward. And I know that these are a lot of different things across different areas of your life that might feel like a big change you have to make at this point. But you don't have to follow all of them immediately. Just go and choose the ones that you think would be the most important, like as far as the benefits to your life, or the ones that you think would be the smallest lifts. The goal is to not look at any of these as a way to deprive yourself of doing something. It's instead to shift your mindset to instead be more intentional with what you're spending your money on. So that way you can spend the money on things that you actually want versus things that you feel that you're doing in a reactive manner that don't actually help you build the life you want to have. So let me know below. Is there something you would like to stop buying this year? How would you decide to spend the money instead? Hopefully the conversation below can help others learn of different areas they can improve their lives. And maybe I'll learn of another area of my life that I can stop spending money on to help make sure that I spend that money in an area that I actually do want to grow. So let's get the conversation going, and I appreciate you watching this video. Thanks again.